In a pair of earlier videos, we discussed the moral philosophies of 6 well-known clone commanders. By popular demand, we're back to talk about 3 more. This video's subjects are the cool-headed, strategically minded Commander Bligh, the unyielding, staunchly loyal Commander Wolffe, and one of our least favourite clone commanders, Commander Fox. We've got a strategist, a stalwart, and a snitch to talk about today, so let's get started.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
CC-5052, the clone martial commander known as Bligh, led the 327th Star Corps, one of the very first clone units to see action on Geonosis. He led the 327th alongside General Aayla Secura, with whom he had one of the strongest relationships of any Jedi clone pair. Secura could rely on Bligh's dedication to the cause, and Bligh could count on Secura's competence. Bligh was initially distrustful of Secura and her Jedi ways, but he came to appreciate her experience. Together, they shaped the 327th into one of the most versatile units in the GAR, a highly effective force with a talent for fighting in unusual environments. Bligh and Secura served together from the very beginning of the Clone Wars all the way up until Order 66, when Bligh gunned down his friend and superior officer during the Battle of Felucia. Bligh's outlook on life was perhaps best described as completionist. Like many clones, he saw himself as a simple soldier and nothing more. In his own words, know the mission, know your enemy, achieve the mission, kill the enemy, that's all I need. It's all any soldier needs. Bligh did have one defining character trait though, his dedication to his orders. He didn't have much of a moral philosophy beyond that. Unlike many other clones, however, Bligh didn't see his orders themselves as anything special, rather he valued completing the mission, whatever that entailed. This was a more flexible mindset than good soldiers follow orders that many clones went in for. Bligh thought for himself and was willing to bend orders a little if he thought it would mean completing the mission. Generally speaking though, he just stuck to orders. He wasn't one to rock the boat unless he thought it was absolutely necessary. However, Bligh valued his instincts about as much as his orders. If his gut told him to do something, he would do it, even if it contradicted his orders. Most of the time, this proved to be an asset in completing missions, and General Secura came to trust Bligh's instincts almost as much as the commander himself. Bligh's faithfulness to his instincts wasn't disobedience, mind you. He simply preferred to focus on the big picture than on the minutiae of his orders. Despite his independence, Bligh was always dedicated to carrying out each mission, almost compulsive about it. He absolutely detested the thought of incomplete missions staining his record. Bligh's overwhelming desire to complete each mission overrode any other moral values he possessed. He was willing, for example, to kill potential hostiles in cold blood if he thought it would be advantageous. In the end, Bligh's drive to complete his missions proved stronger than even his personal loyalties, as evinced when he executed Order 66 despite his close friendship with Aayla Secura. It should not be forgotten though that Bligh did his best to give Secura what he considered a quick and merciful death out of respect for their friendship. CC-3636, otherwise known as Commander Wolffe, was the commander of the 104th Battalion and Dave Filoni's persona. Famous for his work with the elite squad known as the Wolffe Pack, Wolffe worked closely with Jedi General Plo Koon. Wolffe and Koon were a solid duo, as both were absolutely ferocious in combat and favoured aggressive tactics. Both had similar approaches to the chain of command and following orders, and Plo Koon's black and white sense of morality meshed with Wolffe's soldierly attitude. Commander Wolffe was actually quite similar to Bligh in many respects. Like Bligh, he didn't have a defined sense of morality, caring almost exclusively about being a soldier. However, Wolffe didn't share the same zeal for getting the job done. He was known to have a pointed dislike of certain kinds of missions, mercy missions especially, and didn't seem to care how those turned out, so long as he could get straight back to the battlefield afterward. This attitude evinced both a general ambivalence toward orders and a lack of moral priorities. Wolffe didn't care for orders he considered pointless, although he wasn't as insubordinate as a handful of other clones were. He didn't respect officers he considered incompetent, especially career officers like Major Ozzel, but he wouldn't openly rebel against them. Sometimes, Wolffe refused orders or overstepped his authority by altering his superiors' battle plans, but he still tolerated incompetent officers, unlike, say, Captain Rex. He also didn't seem to care when his incompetent superiors took credit for his ingenuity, as was the case with Major Ozzel in the Battle of Corm. His focus, first and foremost, was on completing missions and keeping his men safe, and he usually took the path of least resistance to achieve that goal. We don't know what happened to Wolffe during Order 66 or what his thoughts about the order were. Plo Koon was with Clone Captain Jag at the time and died by his hand, and as far as we know, there were no other Jedi in the area for Wolffe to execute. However, at the end of the Clone Wars, we do know that Wolffe deserted the Imperial military alongside Rex and removed his inhibitor chip. This hints at a much greater degree of independence than Wolffe normally showed. He clearly had no loyalty to the Empire, and it's doubtful he had much loyalty to the Republic either. Like Bly, he didn't care for the politics of the Clone Wars, he just wanted to do his job and do it well. CC-1010, or the infamous Commander Fox, was the commander of the Coruscant Guard, one of the most elite clone units in the Grand Army of the Republic. He and his shock troopers were tasked with protecting the galactic capital, Coruscant, a job description that included everything from battling separatist terrorists to raiding the homes of random civilians for no good reason. Fox was one of the most highly decorated soldiers in the Republic, known for his combat effectiveness and eagerness to charge into battle. On a real battlefield, he might have made a pretty solid commander for a frontline force. On Coruscant, he ran a police state. Like Commander Bakara, Commander Fox was a legalist. He saw himself as a lawman because he basically was one. As the head of the Coruscant Guard, he and his men did a lot of policing alongside their usual military duties. This was a bad idea from the outset since, in the words of Commander Adama of the Battlestar Galactica,
"There's a reason why you separate military and the police. One fights the enemy of the state, the other serves and protects the people. When the military becomes both, then the enemies of the state tend to become the people."
Commander Fox single-handedly validated Adama's rule. The blending of his two roles led him to see anyone in violation of Republic law as an enemy combatant, which led to at least one unnecessary death. To make matters worse, Fox was a zealot, fiercely and exclusively loyal to Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, and looked down on anyone who didn't share his fanaticism. He was, in simple words, too trigger-happy to be a good lawman and too wrapped up in the law to be a good soldier. All of this was made worse by the fact that Fox was one of those people who assumes others were guilty unless proven innocent, not the other way around. He was notoriously unreceptive to pleas of innocence, no matter whether they came from Jedi like Ahsoka Tano or his own clone brethren like Fives. In Fox's mind, if his superior said someone was guilty, they were guilty, and if they were guilty, they deserved to die. While Commander Bakara's legalist attitudes made him unpleasant to have as a superior officer, Fox was far more dangerous. While Bakara's philosophy allowed him to focus on making the Galactic Marines the most effective unit possible, Fox's philosophy often led to the harassment of innocent Coruscanti citizens. We mentioned in our first entry in this series that the legalist mindset is dangerous, and really, you don't need to look any further than Commander Fox to see why this was the case. So that's our look at the moral philosophies of 3 more clone commanders. But what do you think? Are there other characters you'd like to see us analyze in this fashion? If so, which ones? Let us know that in the comment section below. And as always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.